Are we
Cool. Let's kick off.
are we able to share somebody's screen? Do you want to share yours, Shaq, or
Yes.
Good idea.
just so we're looking at the same thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is really rough on my. Kieran, can you maybe share on your screen?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it's up on my iPad. But then we can all kind of still dig into the document if wanted, like to still put in answers here. All right, thanks. Yeah, so for this section of it, we're just going to be going into the. Oh wait.
Does that look okay?
I'm seeing the Google Drive screen here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Not the right screen. Hang on one second. Too many windows. Stop share.
Yeah, for some reason, I think my
Let's see. That's screen two. All right, let's try that one. Does that work?
yes.
Ah, cool.
Perfect.
All right, great. Yeah, for this section, we're really just going to be bringing kind of internal clarity into how people feel when they interact with the School of Bitcoin.
Yep.
And so everything that's in this, like the videos, all of it's just meant to give context to how the School of Bitcoin wants people to relate to themselves and others in new ways by going through the program, essentially. So I don't know, I saw some questions up on here. I feel like we should just go through these.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see. So for the,
I went through your email and just answered stuff in a Google Doc and just transferred it into here. So my first points, I've done all my notes in orange.
okay.
That was my first sort of points to your actual thing.
Okay, great.
So the goal to clarify the brand and kind of what that means. So just my points around that. Maybe we'll just do that first, and we can jump into the others. I thought like how it should make people feel was included, inquisitive, empowered, and then finally responsible. So like you kind of feel, all right, I've got all this knowledge now. I feel responsible to, one, impart it to other people, but two, you kind of feel responsible for other people when they're learning as well. And I thought, so it's a place for people who sort of come to the realization that, the legacy, whether it's education system or financial system, there's something kind of wrong with it. If they've come to that on their own, then it's a place for them to sort of feel connected. So it's like a sense of belonging with that. And then like what we were talking about last week, financial literacy or financially literate for the 21st century. I really like that. I think that's something important that we should include. And then, finally, I thought like I kind of came to the realization that we're not really looking to sell an idea. So like the concept, I think, kind of sells itself. So like we're not, it's anyone interested in an open learning network. So anyone or learning paths. And I kind of came to that realization like with my one of my friends in Canberra. He's having a baby, and so I kind of spent the time and ran through like Bitcoin as you do, and I was pretty adamant about it. And like you're having a baby, like I brought him up a hardware wallet, set him up with some BTC. It was all cool. Like it's awesome. I said you should do DCA because it's pretty important. And his initial plan, because they've got a house and everything that they're moving into, he was going to put $100 a week into a bank account until they're 18. And I said, well, you could do that, or you could put it into BTC, right? Like, I think by the time they're 18, they'll be like, Dad, you may as well have collected seashells than put money into like a bank account sort of thing. But then I came to the realization that like he really appreciated it and kind of went through everything, but then he was still like, you know, looking at altcoins, and I don't think that message sort of sunk in. So I kind of realized, yeah, we're not this whole school, like the whole school of Bitcoin, it's maybe not for him. It's for people that sort of come to the realization or have a need for that on their own. So like people in maybe countries that they don't have a stable currency, you know what I mean? So it's like, because everything's sort of kind of happy here and kind of stable, he can't see the need for kind of, I guess it comes to time preference really. But I mean, he'll probably come to it on his own, but it's yeah, it's an interesting thing. So I thought, yeah, it's not something that we're trying to sell to anybody, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good like distinction. Definitely, like especially like for like when we're talking about, it sounds like cheesy when you're talking about marketing, but just being clear on that, because I mean, you were talking about the guy who's experiencing homelessness right now and how he could go through this. That's someone who's going to benefit this so much. And then those use cases, those examples will help your friends that are experiencing more comfortable situations. They'll be able to see different applications for themselves. Yeah, that's perfect. I like that a lot.
So I don't know where that fits in here, but I thought
yeah, I actually like we'll get to it later, but I've even just been moving these over into like the places where I think they match. So yeah, these are all perfect. And then I saw a question with regard to, I had a question about like what like alternative mass media would mean. I think that was just like, that was confusing general language, and I kind of cleared it up a little bit, but just to clarify, it's kind of think of the videos that we're selecting here, they're internal for us to throw ideas around, but also it's a way to think like the stuff that's shared on regular TV. I mean, it's selected by people. Like this is a alternative to say, if we had like a decentralized mode for distributing information. I mean, we have like YouTube, but if it was more intentional, what would School of Bitcoin be putting out there? That's the way to think about that. So, which I've already looked through, and you've already put in some really good videos. So,
I had a good think about them, because there's so much stuff that's out there. I think that's it maybe like what I have isn't like probably good, but we could probably find better stuff along the way. But I think it's yeah, very important for sure.
And then I saw your question here about can we take a look at the pango.com? I looked at that site. That looks really interesting.
Yeah, it's really new. A colleague, I did some consultancy work for a company in London, and Pango approached this company I work for in London, and they've just started up. So the company that I do a lot of writing for is wellbeing and character education, which is really big in the British curriculum. And so Pango approached this company to say, would you like to put content into our site? Because they're trying to build up content that relates to any curriculum, basically. And that gave me the idea when I was looking through, because at the moment it's light on, there's not much in there, and it's only British content. But I thought to myself, when I saw what they'd done, I thought the repository that they've created, is that the kind of, some of those ideas we could actually take, and is that the kind of thing that we want when we say to people, come on in and, you know, use our framework? The framework's sort of set. And I think that's when I asked that question, is the School of Bitcoin a content provider and a platform provider? I think I needed to get that right in my head.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's both. I think what we want to do is create our own content, but also have other people create it. And like we've been saying from the sort of get-go, fork it as well and create their own versions of whatever we're doing as well.
Yeah.
Is this the right site?
I think it's pango.education.
Yeah.
Is that coming up for you guys?
No.
Not sure.
No.
No.
Must be just sharing that tab. Okay, never mind.
Do you want me to bring up mine?
And I'll do. Tango.
And it's really interesting when you see sites like this. I mean, it's obvious that it's when you get in that back end, it's obvious that they just started and they're focusing on lesson planning. And so essentially, I mean, we're sort of in that space in that we're not quite planning lessons, but we're certainly providing an overarching curriculum. And we're also taking people presumably through like bit entry, whatever we call it, whether it's bit, bronze, silver, gold, you know, professional or whatever. So it's sort of an interesting back end. Do you want me to get into mine where we can actually look at the back end? I've signed up. Yeah, I'll just give me 1 second. I'll just go in.
Is this akin to that Spanish app? What were they called?
Yeah, so similar sort of thing. So I compared the two. I think that, you know, this I think a lot of people are in this space basically creating. Let me just go to.
Yeah.
All right, I've got it on my. Let me just share my
I need to
screen.
get back to them. Actually, they've been emailing me. I need to go back through my email.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking to. Are you okay if I share mine?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah. Share screen. Yep, should be this one. Oops. Has that? Oh, it says it's paused. Whoop. It didn't share.
No, it said you'd started, but nothing came up.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, share again. Yeah, why is it doing that? It's saying it's paused. That's a bit weird. Let me, yeah. I don't know why it's doing that. I've got it on my screen and I'm pressing the right one. Just give it one more go.
Are you doing share window
Yeah.
or share screen?
Share. You can see my emails. No.
No.
No, it's not allowing it. I have no idea why. I can certainly see where I'm selecting it, but I'll just talk you through it. Sorry. So, no, it's not allowing me to do anything. I can't even see the screen now. It's disappeared. Oh, I probably need to restart. I'm so sorry. That's really embarrassing.
No problem. No.
Anyway, all good. So basically they're like, I think a lot of the new platforms in this space, they're trying to build themselves as a platform that allows for content providers to come in. So presumably we're a platform and we're going to be putting the base of our content in and then presumably allowing, the way it'll be coded is it will allow, like you say, a hard fork for schools to then take our information and then feed in their own, but will other sub-DAOs get access to seeing what, say, for example, the school down the road have created with our framework and their content?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think so. If you think of like Michael and Craig's school,
Yes.
That's a perfect example because they're building curriculum from the ground up, and it's STEM based. So I think they're like would be number one. But I mean, they can build off ours. We can help them build the curriculum as well. But then say a school in Australia or a school in Chicago can see what they've done, fork that as well and create their own sub-DAO. So yeah, 100%.
So that community then, so have we got somewhere in there that they can actually talk to each other? So I know a couple of years ago, I was doing a really interesting project and I can't remember what it was called, mainly out of the European Union, where schools, for example, in Finland, they were doing a makerspace project and they, within that community that they were set up in, they could see a school in Spain doing something similar. They hopped onto the platform and then the kids were actually able to share their projects. I'll see if I can look into what that community was called, but it was really powerful for the kids to actually be looking at what the kids were doing. Presumably we're looking at what teachers are seeing with regards to curriculum. I don't know whether you'd get down to the kid level, but
Yeah, no, you would for sure.
you could,
Yeah. So like the idea would be, and I think this is where your mind is as well, Jacques. It's really upskilling for GitHub as well. So like students at my school have been using GitHub for a number of years, but that's not like a common thing really.
No.
So this would empower them to do that, and fork their own to create their own DAO of whatever it is they want to do as well.
Right.
So I think that's the communication point. I've been going back and forth with that in my mind as well. It's like, what's the communication tool that we use for that? But you don't really want the responsibility of that as well, because it's, you know, it's schools and students and all that sort of thing. So
That's
I think
right.
what you want is a space here where you can share and they can fork stuff. And I think GitHub's kind of the spot to do that. So rather than us running like a Slack or whatever, or making our own message board or something, well, I don't think we need to reinvent that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's the right way forward.
Yeah, I even feel like there could be maybe a learner comes through and creates a message board that can connect these different.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, like they can come up with something, but I think if we just give them that bare bones, they can
The tools for it. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think definitely. Well, I'd have to have a look at Pango, but if it's like that other software, you definitely want to do that as well. So that sort of didactic approach to financial literacy components. But then from there on out, they can build their own stuff and do their own things with it.
And can I ask another question? So Pango, for example, and I think a lot of these, they probably have got something that, you know, you get for free, and then they've got their pricing strategies. Is that the kind of thing that you envisage with the School of Bitcoin, that maybe there's an element that everybody gets for free, and then there's a pricing strategy that you're going to work in?
Probably not. So I think, free across the board. Free as in you don't pay, and free as in freedom, like open source. I think the element, like we were going back to, is probably the like NFT aspects of the certification. So I think that was really Jacques' idea. So like having the whole course free, everything you do free, and then if you want to be certified, you can pay for that NFT. That goes back into the pool. That gives us funds for the the collective hardware wallet for the moment, but then can fund projects that learners want to do. I think that's the way to go. So it's like it could just run with nobody ever paying for it if you're real, like it probably won't, but you know, that aspect of us actually like funding projects, like that's not the be all and end all. And I think that's where Peter and Michelle were getting a bit stuck, because they were sort of thinking about that being like everything predicated on that, and it's not. I think the key is us creating an open platform to create. So we create our stuff, make it forkable, and make it so like it's anyone can sort of run with this. I think as long as we stick to that as a core sort of tenet for it, I think it's the way forward. I think if you start going like profit first for these sort of things, particularly in fiat, I think it's sort of doomed to fail, really. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah.
It's for longevity anyway. I think, and in terms of like creating a new paradigm, a new education system, it has to be easy and open for anyone to get connected to.
Yeah, I suppose it would be quite contrary to everything that you're standing for, to, like you say, put the system out there for decentralized education and then follow a centralized approach whereby you're looking for money in fiat, and the pricing structure follows a very traditional model.
So now I think we do the free, and then it's just like the certification process is the thing that sort of funds it. Well, that and also the grants, I suppose. Did you, on that note, before we kick on, did you guys get the invite for Wednesday? So I had to make it 8 p.m. here, so I don't know if that's going to work for you, Jacques. It's probably
I could potentially make it, but I might sit that one out. Yeah.
There you go.
What's
7. It's 7 for me. I can do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a better time. But yeah, all good. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So should we kick on with the?
Yeah.
I will try to actually share my screen here.
Okay. Cool.
But rummaging around a little. Let's do this. All right. Can you be able to see my screen there?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think we'll hit all these other points that were on the home on the other questions here, but we can kind of roll through this. So on this first slide, this is us focusing on ways that the brand's really going to make people feel. This is really like the more emotional side of things. So with the videos that we select here on the left side, it's really just related to, I mean, these can be Bitcoin centric. They can be just like a video that like makes you feel good in general about like how you connect to yourself. And honestly, I think a lot of these, I saw you had Robert Breedlove, Andreas. A lot of the videos that I watched of theirs really just makes me think about life so much differently. It's so much deeper than just Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think these videos are great. Like this isn't meant to be too prescriptive, just like to get the mind flowing a little bit. So I think this is good here. And then also like the other, what are some videos that would inspire people to relate to the planet and society differently? I think there was another question about what I mean by the planet, and it's just meant to be like the broader system. So if people are thinking about themselves, that's kind of like the singularity, and then however far you want to stretch it out, do you want to stretch it out to society, or do you want to stretch it out to the planet? Like, how do you feel about like the whole thing that person is a part of? So that's kind of like, I mean, in a real sense, the same videos that would apply for the individual, like Robert Breedlove or Andreas, those would probably be applicable for here as well. But it's just videos in that vein. So
I probably misinterpreted the first one. So like those intro videos are more so like sort of basic intros to the whole, what is money sort of thing. But yeah, very, very, I guess, feel good. The one underneath, it's kind of hard to see. It's kind of, maybe make it a bit bigger if you can. That was, Michael Saylor. So there's a brilliant video where he talks about basically Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network being a battery. So like storing energy and being able to move that energy from one side of the planet to the other, and how that's going to change the world basically and he's quite articulate with that, with his background in thermodynamics, and he really he's done multiple videos, but I thought this one was really good, and obviously it could potentially change the planet, so I thought that was a good addition.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think honestly we can kind of run with these. We can have these in the background. I'm excited to actually like watch through some of these, and then we can, as we go through this, we'll just hone in on maybe one or two that we want to stick with.
Yep.
So for the ecosystem's target audience characteristics, I just put in curious to just kick things off. But, and Jill, I don't know if you added any in here. Kieran, I think these are the ones in. But.
No, I didn't add any in. I think I just said, does relating to the planet mean that there's a cause that the sub-DAO supports? What was I thinking there? I think I was thinking something about philanthropy, and like at the moment, there's that whole donation to Ukraine that comes up on many of the exchanges, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I was thinking from a planet perspective. Mine was that sort of giving back. I listened to a really interesting podcast, What Bitcoin Did, about the guy who is in the interviewer. He talks about the fact that he's happy to actually use Bitcoin for good. It's not just a matter of accumulating. He wants to contribute to the liquidity of the system, and therefore he's happy to actually pay for things by Bitcoin, but also contribute to causes in Bitcoin. So that's his sort of, I don't know whether that's what you're sort of looking for with regards to the planet, but in supporting the ecosystem, he wants to support the liquidity of it. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, Pete, it's the one that was just, I can put a link in the thing in the chat window, but I thought it was an interesting way, because we're looking at, I suppose, financially literate. A lot of people think of wealth creation. And so just like you said, you know, every week DCA in, buy more Bitcoin. But the interview was interesting because he said, yeah, you can. And obviously he's about wealth creation, but just like fiat money, money's there to spend. And so the way that you think about it, everybody's thinking, oh, it's so valuable, it's so valuable. But he said, yes, it is, but you still have to, you still have to think about how you spend. So, you know, a little bit you will donate, and a little bit you will be happy to buy your hamburgers with BTC. And yeah, so that was, I didn't know whether that fitted in there.
That definitely does. That's awesome. No, I think
Yeah.
that's so important. That's like with the school that we built, like with the shipping containers. Specifically, we went out of our way to find retailers, like, to buy the hardware that only accepted Bitcoin.
Right.
So it made it a lot harder. I think we got about 90% of the stuff like from sources that only accepted BTC specifically, so to support the network. So that's kind of what he's talking about, I think, and that's huge. And like even Andrew, who donated to the school, he's like, yeah, well, you know, you can keep it all, but like, isn't it much better to actually, you know, build something with it and do something with it and show that you can, you know, show the world what's achievable with it as well. So yeah, right on with that for sure.
Yeah, that maybe needs a little bit more thinking out as well, but because I think people now are actually, I mean, a lot of people, for example, have been in Bitcoin for maybe a decade. They've maybe got to a point where they're comfortable enough to think that way. I mean, I'm not, because I've only come in the last, you know, 14 months. So it's like, damn, where have I been? So for my thinking, it's like, oh, I'm not giving any away because I haven't got any way to give. But at the same time, I can understand the liquidity is important, because unless everybody is on board and using it, it's not going to be a standard. It's going to be an us and them. And therefore you don't have that stability, and you can't think with the generosity in mind to be able to support your ecosystem. That's
right. Yeah, exactly. I will say this, like nowadays, it's a lot easier onboarding people. Like thanks to like World of Satoshi's, like amazing. Like I was out to dinner with a couple of guys in Canberra, and like neither of them ever bought Bitcoin or sort of knew about it. So obviously I was going on a rant for about an hour about it, as you do. But just setting them up, like, yeah, download this, boom, this is a Lightning Network. You could be standing next to me, like we could be having dinner like this, or you can be on the other side of the planet. Network doesn't care. It just works like that. And like, it makes, it's like magic, really. It's like, oh, I get it. I think that's kind of the way to go. But yeah, anyway, I'll I'll shut up. We should probably kick on.
No, yeah, that's perfect. And like, I definitely would like to talk more about like the philanthropic side of things. I mean, last week, a couple weeks ago, when that was last week, when we were talking about like the community aspect, there was one section for a promoted project. We put in stacks as like the promoted project, but we could also include like a cause or a charity that the School of Bitcoin might want to amplify as we go through things, like an education related one. Well, that's definitely good.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, so that's just good. Something good to keep in the back pocket. I like that you asked the question, Jill.
Well, yeah, like we were saying earlier, like with the guy in Amsterdam, the homeless guy, like instead of just giving him some sats, like setting him up with the ability to create something and help other people. I reckon, definitely fund something like that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think what it comes to is like us all agreeing on what that thing is, and being able to, as opposed to, you know, just like one person doing it here and there.
Right. So yeah, I think all of these characteristics look great. We could always add in more if we want. And then for the adjectives for how we want people to feel when they interact with the School of Bitcoin. So this is really meant to be like, yes, like you're included, inquisitive, empowered, responsible. As you were explaining that, you also said you want them to feel like they belong.
Yeah.
So if there's any other adjectives, Jill, do you have any off the top of your head? I can just, if you guys want to throw any out, I can easily add them to this document. Or if these are
I suppose one of them would be, you've got to look at the idea of risk. Yeah.
So can you expand on that a little more?
No, I might have to have a think. I will. I'll expand, but maybe I need to have a little bit of a think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
cool.
ones on the right that I had. It's a little bit hard to see, but I think they're more.
Yeah.
I think they're more describing like what the system looks like rather than how it makes people feel. So I probably didn't put the right.
Right, but even you asking that, I added that to this next slide here, so we can even come here. So
cool.
That's like the main characteristics of the School of Bitcoin. I think that's a good clarification. It's not something I had in there before. So this is more for like, how do people relate to the School of Bitcoin? Before it was related to themselves, this is more how they relate to the School of Bitcoin, how they relate to like their own personal health. It's kind of again, it's a little nebulous here, but and so we have Bitcoin as a free payment network by Jack Mallers and
I thought that was a good one. He's got a lot of good videos, obviously, but this one sort of talking about how what was the thing for us? Well, some of the video speakers channels that inspire people to focus on their physical health. Why did I put that for physical health? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't fit in there. But he was.
What it's about, though. I mean,
I don't know what my thinking was, but the video is basically about how you can empower people and like using the Bitcoin network as a free payment network rather than like these centralized platforms, like say PayPal, for example, that really can't scale. So he talks about scale. He talks about empowering people in, you know, obviously like El Salvador and third world countries and that sort of thing. Pretty powerful. I don't know if that's I guess physical health, because it's gonna help people.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
it's so abstract that it works still. It'll still work. But if anything, it would stretch someone's imagination. Like if I watch that, I'll be thinking about physical health in different ways, and it'll just bring up different things for me. So but
I was just going to say, with that question that you asked me before, how you feel, can you go back to that one a second, Jacques?
Sure.
I think there's got to be the flip side as well, because we're saying included, inquisitive, empowered, responsible. They're all positive connotations as to how we expect people to feel. But I think people also feel overwhelmed and uncertain.
Right.
And I think you need to address, because it's new knowledge, right? And whenever anybody's confronted, I mean, I've been on the most enormous learning curve for me, and I felt, and I made mistakes as well, you know. I bought at the high because I thought, oh yeah, I've done the research, I read the white paper, and you're right, everybody. And then, you know, the next week it dropped and I went, oh wow, how did that happen? So I mean, you know, I think managing risk in lots of aspects of our lives is complicated and brings with it uncertainty. And certainly with money and new knowledge, we're going to make mistakes or fail. And therefore, I think maybe when they interact with the School of Bitcoin for the first time, I think we need to address the flip side to, the flip side, basically.
Yeah, so I guess that would be, when I think of that, that makes me think of like the target audience. So it might be people who are uncertain about money and Bitcoin, people who, so the adjectives about how people feel, it's taking the challenges that they're currently feeling. They come to the School of Bitcoin and then they feel better on the other side. So yeah, I think the flip side that you're talking about would be great to lump into the target audience characteristics up here. Do you have other things like that that you're
I think that common sense about money, which goes back to our financial 101 basic literacy advice, is, it's about time in rather than timing, and DCA, and doing, even though you've done your due diligence, sometimes things happen, Russia invades Ukraine, or, and I think somewhere in there, that common sense that we know is standard to fiat money, that you say, if you're in it because it's a strategy, and you need to think about your own, leverage, I think, comes into there as well. It's not a casino. And Jacques, I think we talked about that very first time that we had the curriculum meeting we talked about it last week with regards to, it's not gambling. It's not a quick rich scheme. I think we need to sort of put our common sense values into there somewhere.
What about this for characteristics? You kind of just sparked a thought. The people that have been like wrecked or hacked, and they feel like they feel kind of pissed off, or they feel like scared or uncertain, like you're saying, like a place. And like, I don't know, I mean, I've been hacked so many times on different blockchains, and God knows what over the years. I remember I had remember the old Steam network, STEEM. So that was like a blockchain based Facebook sort of thing. It was pretty cool. Like, you'd post and people would pay you like for your content, and like we were actually looking at building an edu platform like off that at one point. But I like foolishly just on my Android, like someone spun up like a chat tool built off that, signed in, and like all my funds, I think it was like 6K, like hacked, gone.
Wow.
Jesus, why did I do that? Like, what an idiot. And there was
straight away.
Just gone. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think. It was like installed an APK. Like, you never do that. But I was just like, because I was so excited about the community and like people building stuff. I was just like checking it out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it's all gone. And there was no, like, obviously no recourse, but like no support for that. It was just like, just devastated. And so it would be so cool to have like a place to go, or like, like it's your situation with Polkadot just recently, like instead of just hunting through different forums, that sort of thing, having a place to go, like a community that can sort of help with that. Now,
do you think it's getting better? Do you think that they're safe? Yeah,
100%. I mean, well, yeah, actually, no, I don't know. It's probably best of times, worst of times, isn't it? Because the more people, there's more scams out there, and more. I think I listened to a really good podcast where they're talking about the like investment into different cryptocurrencies to treat them like startups. So like, for the most part, startups are like, it's not a big company that you can go and have support from and all this sort of stuff like you would like with a well-established like company that you can invest in, like, I don't know, Tesla or something. It's like a bare bones startup, and that's what you. So it's not not always going to have help with that. I mean, that's not a bad thing. It's cool. Like, you want to be able to support all these projects, like ones that you find interesting. But at the same time, it's like, there's a lot of risk involved with that. But then for something like the BTC network, it's kind of minimal risk. So it's interesting, and I think it's just mindset. So like like saying you bought at the top for the BTC. Like, I mean, it's realistically, like if you're DCAing whatever and focusing on hash rate, you wouldn't even notice. But I think everybody just dumps at the start. I'll just buy as much as possible. But that's why I think, like, you know, $50 or whatever you can afford, ignore the price, focus on hash rate. That's kind of the way forward. But yeah, I don't know if it is getting better. It could be kind of better in both directions, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's important to have that in there, because you're right. Getting wrecked is no fun.
Wrecked is no fun.
No.
Yeah, so I put those under the target audience, because I think, those are really good. That's really good clarification.
It's interesting. Just on that note, you've probably seen on the news the Brisbane floods, which happened sort of last week. Hey, you know, it's no fun getting totally flooded when you've got no insurance. And a lot of those places that are $1 million, $2 million properties down by the river, their roofs like 1-2 meters of water. So basically getting hacked is no fun, but money, whether you spend it on real estate near the river or, you know, whether you go into stocks and shares, you know, there's always pitfalls. It's not just crypto.
Yeah, that's very true. Is everyone okay that you know? Like,
I've got a place in Brizzy that my son is in, but it's an apartment and he's on the 4th floor. But he looks out and he goes, "Mum, there's water everywhere." Yeah, it's pretty murky.
Wow.
He's okay.
Jeez.
Worst things happen, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? It's always fun with those things that happen, like, you know, you get fires and that sort of thing. Find all my family from Ireland are like, "Are you okay?" It's like, Queensland's nowhere near Melbourne. It's so weird. Like, no concept of how big Australia is.
But I suppose that again goes back to risk, doesn't it? So yeah, I think if we put something in on risk and comparative risk, whatever asset class you're in. I mean, this is just another asset class, and I think increasingly it's an immature market because we've only really known it for 13 years, and people are only just coming to understand it because it's becoming more of a mainstream, like it's more accessible. But as long as we're discussing the sort of the pros and the cons, and also I think explaining the fact that I'm not a total expert in the parabolic curve for altcoins, but I'm thinking that it's because you get those parabolic spikes because of the immaturity of the markets with regards to the futures. And once things start to, like, stocks and shares have got a whole range of regulatory bodies and also history behind them and ecosystems of them. And I think one of the problems with the altcoins is it doesn't have, and therefore you do get these strange spikes. But generally speaking, people don't understand that level of economics, and therefore, they don't understand what they're getting themselves into.
That's right. And looking for the next Shibu Inu.
Yes, Dogecoin,
It's 100%. It's like and risk kind of means two things there, I suppose, for the audience or the characteristics for the audience, because it's historically it would mean like getting into the BTC market, you're like not risk averse. And now it kind of means like if you're not in it, you're not, you know what I mean? It's like the opposite. It's kind of flipped. It's really interesting.
Yes, it is. And I think that maybe, are you talking about sort of being in bonds and being in like you're saying your friend in Canberra who puts $100 in the bank in cash? That actually is a riskier thing. To be in bonds, which has flipped, because bonds always used to be your most tolerant, stable asset class that you could actually select. So it is mind flipping with regards to what we have grown up with regards to what is the profile of an investor and what their risk tolerance is.
That's right. Yeah.
So maybe somewhere in there, we need to actually do, I don't know, I'm thinking out aloud now, but is there a bit of a profile of risk tolerance? And maybe, I don't know how you'd work it, but is there something there with regards to how to assess your risk? I don't know. Do you know what I'm getting at? Because, you know, if you sit down with a financial advisor, they ask you, you know, are you aggressive or are you risk averse? You know, it's sort of like A, B, C, D. Oh, I'm D, definitely, because I'm, you know, young, or, you know, I'm A because I'm old. I don't know.
I don't know. I've never sat down with a financial advisor before.
Yeah, they have to. As part of their regulatory requirements, they actually have to assess your risk. But then they're a regular, you know, that's part of the sort of the financial literacy of the traditional world. They have to assess it.
Yeah, I suppose we could do that as well. Yeah. Well,
I don't. Yeah, I'm thinking out aloud, Kieran.
No, well, I think that's something important. I think
I think
that's
it's
as part of like the curriculum. Maybe like we do, like an explanation of that, and then you could have tiers. So you could have, like, you know, for example, DCAing. Some people DCA $5 a month. Some people do $50. Some people do, you know, 1,000. But it's what you can afford, sort of thing. And having that understanding, I reckon it's a good point.
And just on that, it's interesting. One of the pros of the cryptocurrency, or certainly getting into Bitcoin, is that you can actually enter at a very low level and not have, you know, with stocks and shares or with funds, you really do have to be dealing with bigger sums of money. And then the cut from the manager takes away from your profit. So I suppose one of the pros with regards to, say, Bitcoin and any of the market share is you're more responsible for your choice. You can enter at a much lower dollar amount and you can exit when you want to, and you can basically see what fees the exchanges are taking, as opposed to hidden fees that managers and financial advisors, you know, the middlemen are all taking. Yeah,
exactly right.
Which goes into your responsible, that comment on responsible or responsibility is, you know, you can actually take that responsibility.
Yeah. Well, I think, like, and what we want to do with this, with the responsibility aspect, obviously you become responsible for your own, like for yourself, private keys, that sort of thing. But then you also kind of flips your thinking, so you become responsible for everybody else as well somehow. It's and I think that's like what we want to try to foster with this learning network, is responsibility, like, for each other.
Yeah, that's
some good notes there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that.
Okay, awesome. This is working out well.
It's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
So for this next slide, it's kind of like along the same lines, but again, it's more broader for like the community. And let's see here. So, like, what are some, like, what's this other video that you selected here? The thermodynamics. Is this the same one as the other one?
Yeah. Sorry, I had them in a Google Doc. I think I just copied and pasted into both.
I think this one might be perfect for this.
Yeah.
For the second aspect. I'll take it off this one over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it plays really well over here. Because it kind of just get into more of like sustainability if we're talking about like the health of the planet or whatever. And then I saw the photos that you added. This point here talking about what photos will represent. Oops. What's going on there? Okay.
So,
yes.
Do you want me to edit it? Hang on.
No, you're good. Do you have like more photos? Was there like a photo shoot that you had there?
No. So that one literally was just the newspaper that came out, and
okay.
Yeah, I actually reached out to the journo that did it initially, but she hasn't got back. I don't even think she's working for The Age anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, so I actually gave that photo because I thought it was wonderful, and I spoke to Seth, who's the kid in the photo, spoke to his dad. He's like, oh, that's cool what you're doing. I said, oh, do you mind if we use the photo? He said, yeah, go for it. So
Cool.
just gave it to an artist on Fiverr, and they turned it into like an art piece. So I thought, it's cool.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the aspect of this that we're getting into is, as there's more and more content that's created for the School of Bitcoin, what would it look like? And I think that would be that seems like a good theme to go with, that artistic style that we have at our disposal. Is that something you would want to keep moving forward with? I mean, it looks good to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
You can actually put it in there. Yeah. So I shouldn't have just put a link. I should have put the actual photo.
It's all good. I mean, I did follow it. I was able to look and see it. So what are the main characteristics of the School of Bitcoin? This is where I popped in the decentralized, transparent, open, borderless, empowering, and disruptive.
Yeah.
So I think great. Yeah. So Jill, if you have any others, feel free to share now, or we can.
I might. Sorry, just going back, Kieran, on that photo, if we're actually using it for the branding, the legal aspect, I suppose, is that we need some sort of sign off from the parent of the child, because if suddenly this became like the next big Facebook of financial literacy for the world, they might come back to you and say, no, we didn't say you could use it, so you owe us money. Maybe there has to be a sign off to say.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a pedantic point, but it's it's a bit of a loophole that if you didn't close, it could come back to bite you.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, they're really nice people, so I think that'll be a thing. But yeah, I'll reach out again and probably mention that. I think we definitely got to sign off for the age. So.
Oh, okay, that's fine then.
Yeah. So
if you've got, as long as you're not, it's only small. Yeah.
And it's, I think, maybe turning the age photo. Would we have to get permission from the age? Do you reckon? No, it's like public.
No.
You wouldn't think so. And it's like an illustration of
It's crazy world.
Yeah.
Decentralized, transparent, open, borderless, distributed, empowering, disruptive. I think it's spelt wrong, but that's cool. I maybe need something in there about I think you used the word before, didactic, but something about it's an educational, like the main characteristics is we're there to educate. It's informative, and what's the difference, say, between what we're doing and what a social influencer on how are we different from the mass media tools that are
maybe empowering.
Yeah, formative.
We do limited didactism, if that's a word, because it's the only thing we want to be didactic. Like,
or is it autodidactic? I guess I think that's another term I've heard before.
Yeah.
Self-learning.
Yeah, self-learning, because we want to sort of funnel it into self-directed learning.
Yeah, I think I take didactic out actually. You're right.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Educational, yeah.
I think it's good. Good start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, Karen, it's perfect. You already have the colors and fonts. I think these are great. And then that's kind of it for this section. I think we'll be good. We can keep adding more, obviously. The next page is.
I've got no process on picking that font, by the way. It was just totally random. So I don't know why. It looked all right.
It looks really good. It's flexible. It has a lot of different font weights. I feel like it's really good. Yeah, it's really good font. And it's kind of like, it looks like modern, but it also still relates to just other fonts throughout the Bitcoin community.
Yeah.
for this next one, it's just for just how people will rethink like mental health, or just how they rethink about what their minds are capable of. And then on a broader scale, it's how will like we connect globally with like this kind of distributed mind that we're building with the School of Bitcoin. So what was the, what were these videos?
That Trader University one's really cool. It's not that long either. It's definitely worth a watch. So basically it talks about, and I've seen other videos do it, but I think this one does it quite well and succinctly, talking about time preference and how, like the BTC network basically, well, they say it rewires your brain. I guess it does to a degree, but it basically changes how your outlook. So like what I was trying to impart to my friend in Canberra was like, you know, you have a child coming along, you should be thinking along those lines. And my joke about the seashells, I think it might have been over his head a little bit, but not far from the truth, right? Like if you have a inflationary currency, just it's ramping up pretty hardcore. What's that going to mean for the next 10 years? And it's not, it changes your mindset about like time, like he says, but so it's like not thinking a week at a time, not thinking a year at a time, but 10 years down the track, 20 years down the track. And I think for this project, thinking 100 years down the track, like can we create an education system that has longevity forever, that you can sort of plug into any institution and they can run with it.
Yeah, it's certainly Bitcoin. I think that's a really interesting concept, has rewired my brain. And I think it has because what I didn't understand prior to entering Bitcoin was I didn't understand how something like Bitcoin could shift the way that we look at currency at a very, very macroeconomic level, and seeing that change. Because I've always been a big believer in diversification through a range of assets, but I'd never seen Bitcoin and altcoins as an asset. I'd always seen it as speculative startups where you could throw your money at it and never see it again. But it's much bigger than that, because you're looking at a shift like in, maybe we haven't seen for a millennium with regards to how we deal in essentially that whole sense of barter with regards to money and value. It's much bigger than I think I'll choose this altcoin or that. It's much bigger concept.
100%. And the second video, what was that? Let's see that one. Oh yeah, this is really cool. So this is basically, I think we might have spoken about this before, but this guy Troy, who's been a Bitcoiner from like back in the day, he kind of left because he was worried about the impact of proof of work. He kind of got the math wrong. He talks about it in this. It's a bit of a long podcast, but really worth a listen.
Oh, cool.
And towards the end, he said, look, I came back in with how is basically as a solution for, global warming, climate change, all of that, and energy consumption using Bitcoin specifically. And it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's, I'm not going to try to paraphrase it, but worth having a listen because he's a genius. I think they probably need to do, I've actually reached out to him on Twitter as well. See if we get something back, but I think he needs to do like a breakdown video of the concept and make it really easy for people to understand, because I think it's going to really change a lot of people's view on proof of work. Like, for example, Peter Hutton, he's asked me that a fair few times, like about he's obviously concerned about the environment, as we all are. But there's that, well, why have you got these computers like sitting there, just burning up energy or wasting it? This guy really breaks it down better than I ever could. So yeah, worth a watch.
Okay.
That's amazing. Awesome. I'm excited to watch that. And okay, for the logo, we've got that in here. I don't know. I've worked with people in there through. I'm not like a logo designer. Is there any interest in having like the Bitcoin design community look at this, or are we?
Yeah, for sure. So that logo actually came from the one like that I initially did. So I worked on a project with the guy that donated to my school. What did we call it? It was, I've had so many projects with Block Wisdom, blockchain education, I think we called it. And basically he created a really nice icon that I lost that I had like elements of. So I reused it for this and used the new Satoshi logo in there with the BTC logo on there. But yeah, if we get the community to have a look at that, why not?
Cool. Yeah, and I think that's where I'm leaning with this section of this process, is with like the whole branding aspect. I think I should be the Bitcoin design community. I think this would be a great place for them to just plug in and essentially take all this that we're putting out there right now, and then putting a little bit more meat to it, and then something that other designers that join the community can easily add to and run.
Yeah.
All right, and then so I think like the deliverable for this, for what we're doing right now, I'm going to put all this into a Figma file where we can easily just see the responses, like the actual colors, laid out with like the adjectives and the market characteristics, all of that. Awesome. And then looks like we could also put this on the website. I think this would be a really cool presentation out there, and then something to easily share out with the design community. And then this last section here is the main ideas that the School of Bitcoin wants to cross to people. Like, this is what we want to really impart in people's minds. And I pulled most of these from that first slide. You put some of these out there. What was it, the 6?
Yeah, I had 6, yeah.
Yeah, I listed those here. And I wasn't sure, were these from the white paper that was being worked on, or is this from a different document, or just something that you were putting out there?
So the financially literate for the 21st century that was from last week. We were kind of talking about that. So I think that was in reference to,
these top here. Are these, is that what you put in, Jill, or is this?
So I had 6. I think my 6 were emotions and feelings, which relates really back to what you were saying before, how do you feel when you interact? The relationships and conversations, I think it's really important, because if you're just doing it by yourself, it's like me when I first started, I was by myself and I made poor choices, and then felt bad about it, and then knew I needed to reach out and say, hey, is anybody else doing this? So having that relationship and the conversations is part of the education process in understanding what you're doing. And so often I think money is something that we hide away and don't talk about. I think increasingly we're more aware that we need to be discussing. I think in the media there's been a case of, do you talk about your salaries? It's like, previously nobody wants to, it's a bit taboo to talk about money, but I think talking about it is really healthy. Action and inaction, just as you were saying before, if you do nothing, then you're going to be left with the seashells. But what actions do you take? The results and the impact. I think, talking also about my strategy was to get this result, and I've done this, but at the same time this happened, and again talking it through. And then I think I'm just looking for the 6 beliefs, maybe on beliefs and reflections. Yeah.
I think these were them.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5.
Yeah, knowledge and understanding. Yeah, I couldn't see that one.
Okay.
So yeah, obviously there's got to be a whole heap of new learning, pushing you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and great.
And you are pushed out of your comfort zone, because everything that you've previously, well, particularly if you're in your 50s, previously been taught about financial literacy is a little bit turned on its head. And even if you're coming through in your 20s, I think that your knowledge and understanding, all of those relate. not going out too far and still talking about, you know, your risks and your failure and your strategies. I think all of that relates, whichever age group you are in.
Yeah, sure.
Anything else you want to add, Kieran?
No, it looks good. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. And then, yeah, this next slide was just the music.
Oh, yeah.
So
put a lot of thought into this. So this is, there's an album called Connected from 2004. And basically it was a guy from the Netherlands and a guy from the States who collaborated online, and this is like before video conferencing, so they never met each other. They'd literally use email and SoundCloud to send files back and forth, and snail mail. So actually like recording to DATs and sending it in the mail back and forth to each other until so this is like, I think Skype was released in 2003. They're recording this like 2002, 2003. So it was like bandwidth wasn't there, you couldn't quite do it. But they created a whole amazing album together without ever meeting in person. It was the first time it was like an album was created online with people on the other side of the world. So I thought that whole project is akin to what we're doing with this. And there's some really nice, I think the instrumentals are really nice to use as like a, and sort of pick one for each part of this. So yeah, that's one of my favorite albums. So I thought it'd be
so cool.
A really nice thing to use for this.
Now, is there a specific?
Sorry, are you able to go to that slide? Can you press forward to the next one? No, that's okay. That's all right.
Oh yeah, and so the sample for this particular song just has those three words sort of over and over again on it. But yeah, worth checking out. It's a really cool album, and it's something that you'll probably never see again, because it's just taken for granted now that, you know, everything's online, we can chat to each other like this. But at the time it was like really cutting edge, and no one would even think about doing it. It was just two crazy people who got online and thought, well, let's do it. So
It's
yeah,
so
it's cool.
That's perfect.
Do we need to, I wondered, I think my note there, was that my note? I'm trying to work out whether that was mine. I think I said something about the sound pattern. Do we need to sort of understand the purpose as to why we're creating, we're identifying financial literacy with a sound pattern? I'm talking about pattern with regards to, you know, your patients understanding loyalty. Do we need to have something in there that sort of explicitly states that part of the framework in selecting a song that identifies with, say, patients understanding and loyalty is because whatever? Do we need to explicitly state that, or?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, because I know like the song thing sort of comes up a bit, and I really liked it because it got me thinking, and I have like such a huge MP3 collection. It's like, oh my God, like what could you? It really got me thinking about like why you would have like a certain song for a certain topic. So I thought it was just like really really thought provoking. So yeah, it's a good thing to have, I think.
Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah, go. Sorry, go for it.
I don't know how to best describe what the point of it is. Like, I just like.
So
I like
yeah,
but this whole thing is going to be like a story. Like the first one we did was like the intro with the mission, and that's like the first song. And then as we go through, it'll be a 9-song playlist. So it might be easier to explain once we get through it. I don't know the best way to describe how this will be conveyed to learners as they come through. But I think as we as the three of us go through this, and we can describe what the point of it is. Yeah, I don't answer to it yet.
So no. I came up sort of with my own answer, and I don't know whether this is
perfect.
Yeah. So part of this consultancy job that I've had for a couple of years, we actually have one activity in there that we actually get the kids to, in their well-being, to actually write and gift a playlist to somebody that they're grateful for. And so we actually get them to think about songs for that person that inspire and motivate and give hope. And I wondered whether that point of doing this was, like you said, Kieran, it's a generational move that you're making, and it's therefore something that should be inspirational, should have hope, and I think should have that element of proactive, that you're doing something proactive, going back to the action in action. But maybe that's the point. And music as a sound pattern can often, with the brain, it can often be a means by which we're not, we're moved. The sound pattern actually can move us to, I think, move through some of, like if you actually look at the waves of money and the way it does automatically go up and down, because that's the way that actually you do actually get profit and loss. But I suppose money, sound and sound patterns that are there to provide us with that hope and proactivity and optimism for the future. If they're chosen well, then they can actually remind us to breathe and just actually go through those. That is a normal progression of market. It will go up, it will go down. So normalizing maybe the neuro, maybe we could have a sort of a neuro sensory sort of explanation as to why we believe that this is an important part of balancing the well-being through creating a core song that identifies with what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I think like the way that you describe that is just beautiful. And I think the aspect with music, I think it would be good to leave it pretty open-ended, because I think everyone has a very different relationship to music. Yes. So it could be like, we're choosing these songs so that people feel patience, understanding, and loyalty.
Nice.
Every person who creates this will be choosing songs that are completely unique to their own lives. So like as they create their playlist, as they create their curriculum, they're going to be done. They're going to be working towards the vision that they put out there for their own learning journey. And it's going to be related to the songs that they've been listening to with their family and their friends their whole lives. And then like their learning becomes an aspect of like their soul in a sense, you know? So it's, I don't know. It's hard for me to describe what the intention behind this is, other than like we live in a vibrational universe, and like it's like the music that define people's lives is as unique to them as possible. So I think like, so when we go through this with like the curriculum now, there will be songs that you are able to put into this that will relate to your life and how it's like had an impact on your career and education. And it'll just be an inspiration for other people as they create their own. Schools will have their own playlists. Learners will come through, they'll have their own playlists related to their own songs, and it'll just be a way for people to resonate with themselves. But then if it's still in this like 9-song scale, they'll be able to see where they're like, oh, I picked this song for B2 Media. What did you pick for yours? That's so cool. Why would you do that?
But hopefully it's for that positive well-being. I suppose it's for positive well-being with regards to the way that they look at the decisions they're making in the financial literacy space. Do you think? Yeah.
Kind of, it makes it a little bit more personal to them. So I think financial literacy can seem a little stuffy, and but if people can bring a little bit more of their own personality to it, it might make it a little more attractive.
Yeah.
How Connected. It's the name of the album.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was my thinking with that, as well, because like that album, like I was saying, it's like everyone takes it for granted now that everything's made online. It's kind of what we're doing with the school, so decentralized autonomous education system. It's never been done before, but I think eventually it'll just be the norm, and people will take it for granted, and hopefully they look back at like what we're doing. Like you can look back at that album. And I was thinking of sort of picking a different song for each part as we sort of go through it from that album.
That would be perfect. Yeah, that'd be so cool.
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'll change my first response on GitHub as well. Actually, we
Cool.
should maybe next week. Maybe we should go through and actually input stuff together into GitHub as well. So
Yep.
we're doing it correctly, and other people can follow along with that.
I think that sounds great. Yeah, I think.
Or at some stage anyway.
Good.
Maybe continue like this, and then
What's
maybe
that?
do that at one point.
Yeah, I think next week we can focus, like the next phase is really taking these broader concepts and turning them into an actual like conceptual marketing strategy. How will we actually be talking about this? What media platforms do we want to like reach out to people on? What are the types of memes that the community will share?
Yes.
But we can probably condense that pretty well. I can put a document like this out there earlier this week.
Yeah.
Collaborate as the week goes on, and we can solidify it and then jump into GitHub next week. And maybe that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit early to ask this, but and I suppose in the last 2 years we haven't really had many of these opportunities. But to me, something like this would be a great sort of thing to launch at some conferences, maybe EduTech or something like this. Maybe when it gets ready. I mean, we're a way off, but it's interesting to think if we're building that strategy. Do you launch it at something like that, Kieran?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, for sure. I think I had that plan actually a number of years ago with
before COVID.
Yeah. Oh, well and truly. So Chris was on the call earlier in the week. We started a project called it's really called like Coin Wisdom, I think, and then we morphed it into Block Wisdom. And it was basically the concept was paying students to learn in cryptocurrency. It was a bit more open-ended and not based on Bitcoin sort of thing. But yeah, it was. I was keynoting it at EduTech, so the plan was to kind of launch it with that, but things kind of fell apart. We didn't get. I think we didn't get our funding at one point. We were just like, we're working on all this stuff, and other projects came up. But definitely,
I'd be very
too,
I'd be very keen to to present or something with regards to this, from two different angles, macroeconomics, teaching, tech, I'm sure there'd be an absolutely brilliant presentation that could be pulled together that would really raise interest and also, create adoption very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Let's aim for that. So I think, we probably need to figure out like the path that we're going down first in terms of.
Absolutely.
I think first things first, probably the ANZ grant and how we're accepting that. And I think we're looking at speaking to a lawyer sometime next week. So hopefully Digital Playhouse can sort of accept that, so we don't have to think about that side of things. And then we can look at setting it all up, and then maybe even applying for some other grants as well. I know we spoke about like the GitHub or Gitcoin grant. I think that would be really good for your card project.
Cards, Handshake, I think you spoke about.
Yeah. So bringing them all into like or getting a cohesive way in which we're going to sort of do that, I think is really important. Then building out, and then definitely got some presentations as well.
And then the only other thing I was going to ask about was I went through sort of the notes with regards to Substack, but I just wondered whether or not, even if it was just small snippets with regards to building up each week, I wondered whether we could do something with regards to writing about what decentralized education actually means, and actually developing a running blog with regards to exactly what we're talking about now, that sort of macroeconomics, that change, that whole, because it has such an impact societally on the way that we think about education. And I just wondered whether we could build up the articles that way, because once you're starting to build them per week, then you actually have got, in a year's time, you've actually got enough written information. I mean, the meetings are great and it's great to take the minutes, but I think I was thinking of something a little bit more reflective with regards to the space that we're working in, because essentially if we can build that up over the year, I mean, you've then got something like a handbook, you've got something like a publication, you've got an article that you can actually then send to, teachers' journal, or you can actually then when we get down a year's time and you're actually going to conferences and presenting, you can actually very quickly pull on this kind of information that we're talking about today, but it's actually been formatted in a range of blogs over the year. And we can actually, we just get better at what we do and how we're saying it. Because I think half the time also when we come together, we're going, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about that. So those penny dropping moments, if we can actually record them in a bit of a narrative, I think.
100%. Yeah, I think, go for it. My initial thought was just like, for me, just to dump ideas and get them out there. But any way you want to put that together, 100%.
All right. I might put something in because I've got access to the Substack. I might put something in the draft column, and even if it's short, like even like just reflecting on what we've talked about with our narrative today, it'd be fascinating to just keep that collection and see where we go with it.
Definitely.
Okay.
That's good. This is awesome, guys. Thanks heaps.
All right, super.
Jacques as well. I think it's amazing. I think it's a really good format to go.
Brilliant.
Good thinking.
Yeah, that was helpful.
Very cool. All right. Well, see you guys on Wednesday.
Wednesday, was it 7 for me? Bris time.
So we've got the normal meeting and then the evening one as well. So
is it 7 in the evening, Kieran?
Yeah.
Okay. Easier, much easier.
Oh, that's easier. Okay, cool. So that's the Stacks one. The one in the morning, like our usual one, we'll just do. And the Stacks one we'll do in the evening. So
just perfect. Awesome. All right. Sounds good.
Cool. All right.
Thanks very much. Okay, thanks.
Bye.